The rain came down in cold, merciless sheets, slapping against the cracked windows of apartment 3B like angry fingers. Inside, a small lamp flickered over a cluttered kitchen table where Naomi Brooks sat, staring at the envelope in her trembling hands. Her husband, Derek, leaned against the sink, arms crossed, his face tight with worry. It was the first of the month, and that envelope, the one from their landlord, wasn't another warning. It was final notice. Naomi swallowed hard. Derek, he's serious this time. Her voice quivered as she unfolded the letter. The bold black words seemed to shout louder than the thunder outside. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises due to unpaid rent. Failure to comply will result in legal eviction. Her husband rubbed the back of his neck. I told you I'm still waiting for that check from work. The contractor said the payment's processing. Naomi shook her head. We've been saying that for 2 months. Mr. Grayson doesn't care about processing. At that name, both of them fell silent. Victor Grayson, their landlord, a man who wore suits too expensive for this neighborhood, whose polished shoes never once touched a puddle, and whose eyes always gleamed with the satisfaction of control. That night, Naomi stared out through the blinds, her eyes tracking the glow from across the courtyard. Victor's luxury sedan parked beside her rusted Chevy. He'd been in that car for a few minutes, watching, waiting. Then, as thunder cracked across the sky, he stepped out, holding a black umbrella and a clipboard. Naomi, Derek murmured, he's coming up here. Her breath hitched. The sound of heavy footsteps climbed the wooden stairs outside their door. Then, 3 loud knocks. Bam! 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 Naomi froze. Derek hesitated, then opened the door. Evening, Mr. Grayson, Derek said, trying to sound calm. Victor didn't return the courtesy. He stepped inside without asking, shaking the rain off his umbrella like he owned not just the building, but the air inside it. Evening, Brooks, he said flatly, eyeing the small living room with disgust. You've had enough evenings already. Rent's due. Again. Naomi tried to speak, but Victor raised his hand sharply. I'm not here for stories, Naomi. I'm here for payment, or keys. Derek sighed. Look, sir, I've been doing extra shifts at the site. The check, the mysterious check, the same one I've been hearing about since June? He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. Do you think I run a charity? Do you think I'm some saint who just lets people live for free while I foot the bills? Naomi's eyes watered. Please, just a few more days. Save it, he snapped. You've had months. Then, as if to twist the knife deeper, he looked around at their modest belongings, the peeling wallpaper, the family photo of Naomi, Derek, and their little girl Aubrey smiling in front of a park fountain. She's what, 8 now? Victor asked coldly. Naomi blinked. 9. He smirked. Well, she's about to learn what eviction means. Naomi gasped, and Derek stepped forward. Don't talk about my daughter like that. Victor straightened his tie, unaffected. Then pay your rent, man. Otherwise, this weekend I'll have movers here. I'll do it by the book, but make no mistake, you're out. He left the apartment without another word, his umbrella clicking shut as thunder rolled again. Naomi covered her face and sobbed. Derek knelt beside her, guilt etched into every line of his face. He whispered, I'll fix this, I promise. Before we continue this story, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. We'd love to know. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains, catching dust in the air. Naomi had barely slept. Her 9-year-old daughter, Aubrey, tiptoed into the kitchen wearing her faded pink pajamas. "Mommy," she whispered, "are we moving again?" Naomi's heart cracked a little more. She forced a smile. "No, baby. Daddy's working on something. Everything will be okay." But even as she said it, her eyes drifted to the eviction notice pinned to the fridge. That afternoon, Derek returned from the construction site, exhausted and covered in dust. His shoulders slumped as he dropped a brown envelope on the table. He said, "They said maybe next week. Payroll's delayed again." Naomi didn't answer. She just looked at the clock. They had less than 2 days before Victor's 72-hour deadline. Across town in his polished office, Victor Grayson scrolled through real estate listings on his dual monitors. His assistant, Tamara, stood nearby holding a steaming cup of coffee. "Another unit in Riverbend just opened up," she said. "You could renovate that one too." Victor smiled, eyes gleaming. "Perfect. Once I evict the Brooks family, I'll convert that unit into a short-term rental. The market's booming. These people wasting space on my property don't realize they're standing in the way of profit." Tamara frowned. "Sir, they've got a kid. Maybe give them—" "Tamara," Victor interrupted. "Emotions don't pay bills. Rent does." He leaned back in his chair. "That's what people like them never learn." By evening, Naomi sat at the laundromat nearby, counting coins while watching her clothes spin. Her friend, Melissa, a nurse from the same building, sat beside her folding scrubs. "I heard about Victor," Melissa said softly. "That man doesn't have a heart. He evicted the Petersons last year in the middle of winter." Naomi sighed. "He doesn't care about anyone unless there's money attached." Melissa looked at her closely. "Did you ever get that call back from your aunt in Georgia, the one about the property?" Naomi shook her head. "No, we haven't spoken in years. I doubt she even remembers me." Little did Naomi know, that one call could change everything. But at that moment, all she could think about was surviving the weekend. That night, the rain returned, and so did Victor, this time with an official-looking man in a navy suit. Naomi opened the door, startled. Victor's tone was businesslike. "Naomi, this is Officer Denham from the Housing Board, just documenting the eviction process." Naomi's voice cracked. "You're not serious? He's here already?" Victor shrugged. "You've had fair warning." The officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, technically, they still have one more day." Victor's jaw tightened. "And tomorrow's Sunday. I don't work Sundays." Derek stepped out, fists clenched. "You're enjoying this, huh? Watching families crumble?" Victor smiled faintly. "No, Derek. I'm enjoying my property being respected. It's business, nothing personal." Naomi felt the room spinning. "Please, just one more week. My husband's check is coming." He turned, his eyes as cold as ice. "1 week turns into 1 month, Naomi. I've seen it all. You people always have an excuse." Her voice broke. "You people?" He paused, realizing what he said, but didn't correct it. He simply tucked his umbrella under his arm and said, "Keys. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. The next morning was heavy with silence. Aubrey sat on the couch, hugging her stuffed bear while Naomi packed boxes with trembling hands. Derek silently loaded bags into their old car, the one that barely started anymore. Neighbors peeked from their windows as the Brooks family moved out, their faces tight with pity. As Naomi carried the last box, Victor stood by his car, arms folded. "Don't forget to leave the mailbox key," he said casually. Naomi wanted to scream, to ask how someone could be so cruel, but she bit her tongue. Instead, she said quietly, "You'll regret this one day, Mr. Grayson." Victor chuckled. "The only thing I regret is not raising the rent sooner." 3 days later, Victor walked into apartment 3B with a contractor to assess renovations. The place was nearly empty, except for a small white envelope left on the counter. Victor picked it up, frowning. It had his name written in Naomi's delicate handwriting. He smirked. A goodbye letter? How touching! He tore it open. Inside, there were just 3 words, written neatly on a small card. Thank you. You helped us move forward. He snorted. Move forward? To where? The streets? The contractor looked uneasy. Man, you're cold. Victor ignored him and got back to business. Replace the flooring, repaint the walls. I want this unit listed within a week. 2 weeks passed. Victor barely thought of the Brooks family again until the letter arrived. It was addressed to Victor Grayson, property owner, from a law firm in Atlanta. He almost threw it away, assuming it was junk, but something about the thick envelope made him curious. Inside was a formal document and a letter. Dear Mr. Grayson, we are writing to inform you that your former tenants, Naomi and Derek Brooks, have recently come into possession of an estate belonging to the late Mrs. Clarissa Monroe. Mrs. Monroe listed Naomi as her primary heir. Given your prior correspondence as their landlord, we are reaching out to confirm forwarding addresses for additional documentation. Victor's eyes widened. Heir? Estate? He quickly Googled the name Clarissa Monroe. The first result nearly made him drop his coffee. Real estate mogul Clarissa Monroe passes away at 78. Estate valued at $12.4 million. Victor blinked. Naomi Brooks, the same woman he evicted 2 weeks ago, was now a millionaire? He reread the letter 3 times, disbelief turning into panic. He picked up his phone and called Tamara. Tamara, get me a list of all available properties. Call the Brooks family. Tell them I'd like to meet. Maybe we can discuss new opportunities. Tamara hesitated. Sir, you mean the same family you threw out in the rain? Business is business, Victor snapped. They'll understand. But deep down, for the first time in years, Victor felt something he couldn't name. It wasn't greed. It was fear. 2 months later, Victor Grayson stood in front of the mirror in his office, straightening his tie. He'd done this thousands of times, the same routine, the same smirk of self-satisfaction, but today the smile didn't reach his eyes. His business had taken a strange turn lately. The short-term rental plans had stalled. The contractor bailed mid-renovation, and one of his biggest investors had backed out after seeing negative reviews about his heartless evictions. And though Victor told himself it was just bad luck, deep down he knew. It all started the day he kicked the Brooks family out. That night replayed in his head more often than he cared to admit. Naomi's tear-streaked face, the way she whispered, "You'll regret this." He had, every single day since. Meanwhile, across town, the Brooks family was living a life that felt almost unreal. Naomi and Derek had just moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood in Savannah, Georgia, where magnolia trees shaded wide porches, and neighbors actually smiled when they waved. The estate from Naomi's late aunt, Clarissa Monroe, wasn't just a house. It came with trust funds, multiple rental properties, and a small business her aunt had built from the ground up, a company that provided affordable housing for struggling families. Naomi couldn't believe it. "Shit's like she knew," she whispered one night, looking out over the wide backyard. Derek smiled, holding her hand. Maybe this is God's way of saying our suffering wasn't for nothing. Their daughter Aubrey ran around the yard, her laughter echoing through the air like sunlight breaking through clouds. Naomi had one goal now, to help families who went through what they did, to build something good from pain. She turned Clarissa's old office into her new headquarters and registered the nonprofit, the Monroe Foundation, helping families rebuild. And the first city they wanted to expand to, You guessed it, Victor Grayson's town. A few weeks later, Victor received an invitation. It was printed on expensive ivory paper with embossed gold lettering. You are cordially invited to the launch of the Monroe Foundation's affordable housing project. Event location, Riverside Community Center. Special guest speaker, Mrs. Naomi Brooks. Victor froze. Naomi Brooks. For a long minute, he simply stared at the card. Then he laughed. But it wasn't amusement, it was disbelief. "This has to be some joke," he muttered. He called Tamara in. "You remember that woman I evicted months ago? She's apparently running a housing charity now, in my city." Tamara hesitated. "Actually, sir, I saw the press release. It's real. They're partnering with the city council. The mayor is attending." Victor's jaw clenched. "So she's coming back here?" "Yes, sir. And the program aims to acquire underperforming rental properties for conversion to affordable housing." Victor's pulse quickened. Underperforming rental properties, like his. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. His mind kept spinning. What if this new foundation offered to buy some of his old units? What if he could get in early and profit from it? By morning, he'd made up his mind. He was going to that event, not out of guilt, but opportunity. The Riverside Community Center buzzed with people. Local officials, reporters, business owners, families. There was laughter, chatter, the clinking of coffee cups. Victor entered in his usual sharp navy suit, scanning the room. And there she was, Naomi. But she wasn't the same woman he'd evicted. She stood at the podium in a sleek white dress, poise radiating from her like quiet fire. Her voice carried strength and grace as she spoke. "We were once a family that couldn't afford rent. We know what it feels like to be turned away when all you need is compassion. That's why the Monroe Foundation exists. To give struggling families a second chance, not a shutdown." The audience applauded warmly. Naomi smiled, scanning the crowd, and then her eyes met Victor's. For a moment, the air froze. Her smile faltered slightly, but she didn't break. She simply continued, her tone calm, yet pointed. "Because everyone deserves dignity, even when they're down. Sometimes the people we look down on today might be the ones we look up to tomorrow." Victor's throat went dry. She was talking about him. He knew it. After the speech, people gathered around Naomi to congratulate her. Reporters asked questions. Cameras flashed. Victor waited until the crowd thinned, then approached slowly. "Naomi," he said quietly. She turned. "Mr. Grayson." He forced a polite smile. "You look, well." "I am," she said evenly. "And you?" He hesitated. "Business has been slower." "I can imagine." Her tone wasn't cruel, just factual, honest. Victor looked down. I heard about your foundation. Impressive work. I actually wanted to talk about potential partnerships. I own several properties that might fit your—" Naomi raised her hand gently, stopping him. "Victor, when you evicted us, you said something that stuck with me. You said, 'I'm not a charity.' Remember?" Victor's mouth opened, but no words came out. She continued, her voice calm but piercing. "You were right. You weren't a charity. You were a test." He frowned. "A test?" Naomi nodded slowly. "A test of who I would become, of whether I'd let bitterness define me or let grace guide me. And I chose grace." Her eyes softened. "So thank you, Mr. Grayson. You helped me find my purpose." Victor blinked, speechless. "Naomi, I didn't mean to—" She smiled sadly. "I know. You just didn't care to mean otherwise." As she turned to leave, one of the city officials walked up. "Mrs. Brooks, we're ready to finalize the property acquisitions." "Perfect," she said. The man handed her a clipboard. Victor's eyes caught the top line, and his blood ran cold. Property: Grayson Holdings, Riverside Apartments. Purchase price: $2.3 million. What is this?" he stammered. Naomi looked at him calmly. "The city recommended your complex as part of the Affordable Housing Initiative. We're acquiring it through the Foundation's fund." Victor's face went pale. "You're buying my property?" Naomi nodded. "Technically, yes, though not from you directly. The bank approved the sale last week." He blinked, stunned. "The bank? But—" She sighed. "You missed your last 2 loan payments, Victor. The property went into receivership. We just picked it up." He staggered back, the realization crashing over him like a wave. Naomi, the tenant he evicted, now owned the very building he'd once thrown her out of. She looked him in the eyes, not with revenge, but quiet understanding. "Sometimes life flips the script, Mr. Grayson. The same key you used to lock us out unlocked our future." Victor couldn't speak. His throat felt tight. For once, he saw himself clearly, not as a businessman, but as a man who'd forgotten his humanity. Naomi continued softly, "We're turning that building into transitional housing. Families who can't afford rent will live there while they rebuild, and we'll name it something fitting." She paused, smiling faintly. "The Grayson Center for Renewal." He looked up sharply. "You're naming it after me?" Naomi nodded. "Yes, because every story of change needs a reminder of what not to become." Her words hit harder than any punishment could. Months later, the renovated Grayson Center for Renewal opened its doors. The once gray, crumbling building now shone with fresh paint, gardens out front, and murals painted by local artists. Children played in the courtyard, families cooked together in shared kitchens, and among the volunteers, wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt instead of a suit, was Victor Grayson. He swept floors, fixed doors, and helped distribute food quietly. No reporters, no cameras, just humility. Naomi saw him one afternoon and walked over. "Didn't think you'd stick around this long," she said kindly. Victor smiled faintly. "I didn't either, but I needed to see what compassion looks like when it's real." Naomi nodded. "It's never too late to start over, Victor." He looked up, eyes tired but sincere. "You forgave me when I didn't deserve it. Why?" She smiled. "Because bitterness doesn't build homes, it breaks them. And I've seen enough breaking." Victor looked around at the families laughing nearby. "You turned pain into purpose." Naomi shrugged gently. "We all can, if we choose to." Months later, the Monroe Foundation became one of the fastest-growing housing charities in the state. Naomi's story went viral, not for her wealth, but for her grace. And when reporters asked her what motivated her, she simply said, "Once upon a time, a man evicted my family because he couldn't see our worth. Now I spend my life making sure no one else feels that small again." She looked into the camera and added softly, "If you're ever in a position of power, use it to lift others, not push them down, because the person you look down on today might just be the one you'll need tomorrow." If you want more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our videos. Thanks for watching.